The text came through with 3 photos attached. My brother standing in front of a massive 3-story colonial house, grinning like he'd won the lottery. I stared at my phone, confused. Just last month, he'd told me he couldn't afford a down payment. I called my mother to congratulate him. Her response made my blood run cold. She casually mentioned they'd given him $350,000 as a gift. When I asked why they'd never offered to help me buy my condo 2 years ago, she actually laughed. "You're too ambitious for a woman, honey. You should be finding a husband, not buying property alone." I sat in my car outside my office building for 20 minutes after that phone call, trying to process what I'd just heard. $350,000. The number kept echoing in my head. I'd scraped together every penny for my down payment, working 60-hour weeks, eating ramen for dinner, saying no to vacations and new clothes. And my parents had that kind of money just sitting around? No, that wasn't their money sitting around. That was my money. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. I'd been sending them $2,000 every single month for 5 years. That was $120,000. I'd paid off their mortgage when my father's business failed. Another $87,000. I'd covered his medical bills when he needed that surgery. $32,000. I'd funded their kitchen renovation, their new roof, their property taxes. By 6 o'clock that evening, I was pulling into their driveway. The house looked beautiful in the fading light. The house I'd helped them keep. The kitchen I could see through the window. All granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The kitchen I'd paid for. My mother opened the door with a wine glass in her hand. "Oh, Eugenia, what a nice surprise. Come in, sweetheart. Your father and I were just having dinner." They were both in the kitchen, so casual and comfortable. My father was pouring himself more wine. The good wine. The kind that costs $40 a bottle. "I got your text about the house," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's beautiful. I'm happy for him." "Isn't it wonderful?" My mother beamed. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, that gorgeous backyard. The kids will love it. "Mom, I need to ask you something. Why did you help him but not me?" My father looked up from his wine. "What are you talking about?" 2 years ago, when I bought my condo, I asked if you could help with the down payment. You said you didn't have any money to spare, remember? My mother waved her hand dismissively. "That was different, honey." "How was it different?" "Your brother has a family to support. A wife, 2 children. He needs a real house. You're single, and you're making plenty of money at that marketing job." "I make $120,000 a year," I said slowly. "That's good money, but it's not unlimited, and I've been helping you for 5 years. My father set down his glass with a heavy thunk. "We appreciate what you've given us, Eugenia. We really do. But those were gifts. You gave them willingly. I gave them because I thought you needed help. I thought we were family, and family helps each other." "We are family," my mother said. "That's why we're confused about why you're making such a fuss. Your brother needs this more than you do. He has responsibilities. You're focused on your career. You don't need a big house. You should be focusing on finding a husband anyway." The words stung worse than I'd expected. "I'm 34 years old. I own my own home. I have a successful career. Why is that a problem?" "It's not natural for a woman to be so ambitious," my mother said, and she said it so matter-of-factly, like it was just common sense. "You need to think about your future, marriage, children, not just work, work, work all the time." I took a deep breath. "Let me make sure I understand this. You gave my brother $350,000. I've given you over $120,000 in the past 5 years alone. I paid off your mortgage. I paid for Dad's surgery. I renovated this kitchen. And you think I'm being selfish for asking about the different treatment?" My father's expression hardened. "We never asked you for that money." "You absolutely did. Every month, every emergency, every expense. Those were your choices, Eugenia. Your choices to help your family. And frankly, I think your tone right now is very disrespectful." My mother walked to a drawer and pulled out a folder. I'm glad you brought this up, actually. We've been meaning to talk to you about something. She opened the folder and pulled out several pages of handwritten calculations. While we're discussing money, we calculated what you owe us for the years you lived here during college. Rent, utilities, food. We estimate about $800 per month for 4 years. That comes to $38,400. I stared at her. You're charging me rent for living at home during college? 20 years ago? We let it slide because you were family, my mother said calmly. But if you're going to be ungrateful about the help we've given your brother, then we think it's time to settle accounts. Help you've given him? I repeated. With my money. Money I gave you thinking you needed it. My father stood up, his face flushed with anger. If you want to be treated like your brother, then act like a proper daughter. That means continuing the monthly payments we've come to rely on, and stopping this selfish complaining. Your brother is grateful for what we do for him. He doesn't throw it in our faces. The room felt like it was spinning. I looked at these two people, my parents, and saw them clearly for the first time. They weren't struggling. They weren't barely making it. They were comfortable, drinking expensive wine in their paid-off house with their renovated kitchen, and they'd just handed my brother more money than most people make in 5 years, and they expected me to keep giving them more. I need to go, I said quietly. My mother's voice followed me to the door. Think about what we said, honey. Family takes care of each other. Don't be selfish. I drove home in a daze, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. For 3 days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep properly. I kept replaying that conversation in my head, trying to make sense of it. On the 4th day, my phone rang. My brother's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me hoped he'd be different, that he'd understand. Eugenia, thanks for understanding about the house thing, he said cheerfully. I know Mom and Dad explained everything. They're really generous, aren't they? Understanding? I said. I don't understand anything. His tone shifted. Come on, don't be like that. Mom and Dad deserve to spend their money however they want. It's their money. Actually, a lot of it is my money. Money I've been giving them for 5 years. You gave it to them freely. You can't just take back gifts because you're feeling jealous now. Jealous? I'm not jealous. I'm hurt. I'm your sister. Don't you think this treatment is unfair? Look, you make good money. You're doing fine on your own. I have a family to support. My wife doesn't work. I have 2 kids. Don't you think my need is greater? That's not the point, I started to say, but I heard a voice in the background. Is that her? Give me the phone. My sister-in-law's voice came through, sharp and cold. Eugenia, I don't appreciate you trying to ruin our happiness. We worked hard for this house. My parents gave you $350,000, I said flatly. That's not working hard. You're just bitter because you're alone and miserable. We have a real family. We need space. Our kids need a yard. What do you need? Another designer handbag? I don't even own designer handbags, I said, bewildered. Whatever. Look, we're planning to ask Mom and Dad for another $50,000 to furnish the place properly. They already said yes. It's coming from the Family Emergency Fund. My heart dropped. What family emergency fund? The one everyone's been contributing to. She laughed. Well, mostly you, I guess. But it's family money, for family emergencies. And we consider getting proper furniture for our children in emergency. I've put $30,000 into that fund over the years, I said slowly, for actual emergencies. And this is an emergency, she snapped. For us. Stop being so selfish. My brother took the phone back. Eugenia, seriously, you need to let this go. Mom and Dad have always known I'd need more help. They've been planning this for years. What do you mean, planning this? He hesitated, then seemed to decide I deserved to know. They always told me your monthly payments were like loans they were saving for my future. They knew I'd need it more than you. You're the successful one, the one who doesn't need help. Why are you being so selfish about this? The world tilted. They'd planned this. For years. Oh, and one more thing, my brother said, his voice dropping. You should probably check your credit report. Mom and Dad took out a credit card in your name a few months ago. They had your social security number from old tax documents. They've charged about $17,000 on it. They figured you'd just pay it off quietly like you always do. They what? Just handle it like you always do, he said impatiently. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's just money. Family is more important than money. He hung up. I sat on my couch, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My parents had committed identity theft. My brother knew about it. They all expected me to just handle it. My hands were shaking as I pulled up my credit report on my laptop. There it was, a credit card I'd never opened. Balance, $17,214. But there was more. 2 other cards, different companies. Balances of $8,000 and $7,000. $32,000 in fraudulent debt tied to my name. I called my parents immediately. My father answered. You opened credit cards in my name, I said, my voice deadly quiet. We needed the money, he said simply. You weren't being as generous as usual. That's identity theft. That's a federal crime. Don't be dramatic. You're our daughter. What's yours is the family's. You'll pay them off, and everything will be fine. I will not. I'm filing a police report. This is fraud. His voice turned cold and hard. If you do that, you'll destroy this family. Is that what you want? To be the daughter who put her own parents in jail? You did this to yourselves. I'm done. No more money. Ever. And you're going to pay me back every penny. I hung up before he could respond. My whole body was shaking, but for the first time in days I felt powerful. I was done being their bank account. That evening, I filed police reports for identity theft. The officer was sympathetic but warned me it would be a long process. Financial crimes against family members were complicated. I didn't care. I was ready to fight. I slept better that night than I had in years. At 7:30 the next morning, my phone rang. My brother, sobbing. Eugenia, you need to come to the hospital right now. Dad collapsed. They think it's a heart attack. He's in intensive care. All my anger evaporated instantly. What hospital? Mercy General. Please come. Mom is hysterical. I threw on clothes and drove 90 miles per hour down the highway, my mind racing. Was this my fault? Had the stress of our argument caused this? Oh God, what if he died? The hospital waiting room was full of people. My mother, my brother, his wife, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone turned to look at me when I walked in. My mother's eyes were red and swollen. Eugenia, she sobbed, rushing to me. Thank God you're here. What happened? Is he okay? They don't know yet. He just collapsed. She clutched my arms. The doctors say he needs emergency surgery. Something with his heart. It's bad. A doctor in scrubs walked over. Are you family? I'm his daughter. Your father had a significant cardiac event. We need to perform emergency surgery to prevent further damage. The procedure isn't covered by his insurance because it's considered experimental, but it's his best chance. How much? I asked. $45,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $45,000. My mother gripped my hand. Eugenia, you're the only one who has that kind of money available. Please, we'll pay you back. I swear we will. I looked around the room. Every family member was watching me, waiting. My brother stepped forward. You make the most money, he said loudly, like he was making a speech. You should cover it. It's Dad's life we're talking about. Are you really going to let your father die over money? My mother's voice broke. After everything he's done for you? The guilt was crushing. Yes, they'd hurt me. Yes, they'd used me. But he was still my father. Could I really stand here and let him die because I was angry? I'll pay for it, I heard myself say. But I need you to sign something first. What? My mother looked confused. A promissory note. For everything you owe me. The money I've given you. The fraudulent credit cards. All of it. And you closed those cards immediately. Fine, fine. Whatever you need, my mother said quickly. Just authorize the surgery. I spoke with the hospital's financial department, set up payment, and provided my credit card information. My mother signed a hastily written promissory note in the waiting room. My brother witnessed it, looking annoyed but not arguing. The surgery took 3 hours. We waited in tense silence. When the doctor finally emerged, he was smiling. The procedure went well. Your father should make a full recovery. We're moving him to a regular room. He'll need to stay overnight for observation, but he should be able to go home tomorrow. The relief in the room was palpable. Family members hugged each other. My mother thanked God. Over the next few hours, relatives drifted away. I stayed, wanting to see my father when he woke up. Around 9 p.m., I went to get coffee from the cafeteria. On my way back, I passed the nurses' station. 2 nurses were talking, and I heard my father's name. The gentleman in 312? One nurse said. That was quite the anxiety attack. Good thing the family didn't panic too much. I stopped walking. Anxiety attack? Excuse me, I said, approaching the desk. I'm family for the patient in 312. Did you say anxiety attack? The nurse looked at her chart. Yes, he presented with what appeared to be cardiac symptoms, but testing showed it was severe anxiety. We kept him for observation just to be safe. His heart is actually in good shape. But the surgery, I said, my voice sounding far away. The experimental procedure. She looked confused. Surgery? No, ma'am. He's just on observation. Standard protocol. The cost should be covered by his insurance, minus the copay. Maybe $3,000 total. The world went silent except for the ringing in my ears. $3,000. Not $45,000. No surgery, no emergency procedure. Just observation. I walked slowly to my father's room. My mother was there, sitting beside his bed. He was awake, looking tired but fine. The nurse just told me something interesting, I said from the doorway. My mother's face went pale. She said it was an anxiety attack, not a heart attack. She said there was no surgery. She said the total cost is about $3,000. My father closed his eyes. Your mother was scared. She overreacted. Overreacted? I stepped into the room. You told me $45,000. You made me think he was dying. You made me authorize a surgery that never happened. My mother stood up. You have plenty of money. We needed it. The credit card debt, the bills. This was the only way to get you to help after you made those terrible threats. So you faked a medical emergency? We didn't fake anything, my father said sharply. I was in the hospital. That's real. The amount doesn't matter. What matters is family takes care of family. I couldn't breathe. You committed fraud again. You lied to me, manipulated my guilt, staged this whole thing. My mother's expression turned cold. If you report those credit cards to the police, I'll tell the whole family you refused to help when your father was dying. I'll tell them you demanded a promissory note while he was fighting for his life. They'll never forgive you. This is blackmail, I whispered. This is family, my father corrected. Now, go home. We'll talk when emotions aren't so high. I left the hospital in a fog. I'd just been manipulated out of $3,000. I'd been lied to, used, and threatened. And they weren't even pretending to feel guilty about it. When I got home, I collapsed on my couch and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. 2 weeks passed. I didn't answer calls from my family. I blocked my brother's number. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Dr. Sarah helped me understand that what I'd experienced was financial abuse. That I wasn't crazy for feeling devastated. I threw myself into work. It was the one thing I could control, and I had something to look forward to. I was the front runner for a major promotion to Vice President of Marketing. The position came with a salary increase to $175,000 and a $50,000 signing bonus. I'd been working toward this for 3 years. The final interview was scheduled for a Friday morning. I wore my best suit, prepared my presentation perfectly, and walked into that conference room confident. The CEO, the board of directors, and the head of HR were all there. I presented my vision for the department, my track record of success, my plans for growth. Everything went smoothly until the questions started. "Miss Eugenia," the CEO said, his tone oddly formal, "we need to ask you about your personal financial situation." I blinked, confused. "My financial situation? We've received some concerning information. Information that suggests you might be experiencing financial instability." "I'm not sure what you mean. My finances are completely stable." The head of HR slid a printed email across the table. "We received this 2 days ago." I read it with growing horror. It claimed I'd been embezzling from my parents, that I'd stolen money from a family emergency fund meant for medical care. It included what looked like bank statements, showing transfers that made it appear I'd taken their money rather than given it. It claimed I was financially unstable, had taken out multiple credit cards I couldn't pay, and warned the company that I might steal from them too. At the bottom, signed, a concerned family member. "This is completely false," I said, my hands shaking. "This is defamation. These bank statements are fabricated." "We hoped you'd say that," my supervisor said gently. "But you understand, we have to take it seriously." The meeting ended with vague promises to be in touch. I left feeling humiliated and terrified. My supervisor caught me in the hallway. "I believe you," she said quietly. "But the board is spooked. They're putting the promotion on hold pending an investigation." "I'm so sorry." Back at my desk, I examined the email more carefully. There, in the email properties, was the sender information. It had come from my brother's work email address. He'd gotten careless, probably assumed the company wouldn't check. I called my supervisor immediately and showed her. She believed me, but said the damage was done. The board needed proof of my innocence. They wanted access to my personal financial records. For the next week, I provided everything. Bank statements, tax returns, documentation of every payment I'd made to my parents. It was invasive and humiliating. My most private financial information was being reviewed by colleagues. On Thursday, I received a letter. Not from work, from a law firm. My parents were suing me for elder financial abuse. They were demanding $300,000 in damages. The complaint claimed I'd manipulated them into giving me money under false pretenses, then cruelly cut them off when they needed me most. They were using the fraudulent credit cards as evidence, claiming I'd opened them, spent the money, and was now falsely accusing them to avoid repayment. My brother had signed an affidavit supporting their version of events. The lawsuit was filed in their small hometown, where everyone knew our family. It was public record. By Friday morning, the local newspaper had picked it up. The headline: "Local woman accused of exploiting elderly parents." There was my name, my photo pulled from my LinkedIn profile. The article was sympathetic to my parents, painting them as victims of their successful, cold-hearted daughter. Someone shared it on social media. It spread through my hometown online community. By noon, it had reached people who knew me. By the end of the day, someone at my company had seen it. Monday morning, I was called into HR. "We're placing you on temporary administrative leave," the HR director said, "without pay, until this legal situation is resolved. But you saw the evidence. You know the accusations are false." The CEO is concerned about the company's reputation. With this lawsuit and the media attention, they feel it's best if you step away temporarily. "I'm being punished for being a victim of fraud?" The HR director looked uncomfortable. "It's temporary. Once you clear your name, we'll discuss your return." I walked out of that building in shock. My career was crumbling. My name was being destroyed publicly. I was facing a bogus lawsuit. And I was running out of money fast, with no income. That night, alone in my condo, I wondered if my parents had finally won. The online harassment started almost immediately. My mother had posted long, emotional rants on Facebook, about ungrateful children who abandon their elderly parents. She tagged me in every single post. Extended family members shared them. Old friends from my hometown saw them. My phone filled with messages. Some were from people I'd known in high school, people I hadn't spoken to in 15 years, telling me I was disgusting. How could I steal from my own parents? What kind of person does that? Someone created a Facebook page called Justice for the Parkers. It gained 300 followers in 2 days. They shared the newspaper article, added my photo, discussed what a terrible person I was. The comments were vicious. My brother's wife posted photos of my parents looking sad and frail. The caption, "These beautiful people raised an ungrateful daughter who stole from them and then abandoned them. Please share so people know who Eugenia really is." I tried to defend myself online once. I posted a simple statement. "These accusations are false. I'm the victim of financial fraud, and I have evidence. I'm heartbroken by my family's actions." The responses were brutal. "Sure you are. Everyone says that. Your parents would never lie. You're just trying to cover your tracks." I deleted my social media accounts that same day. But the damage was spreading beyond social media. My savings account was draining fast. My lawyer had required a $10,000 retainer just to start defending me against the lawsuit. My mortgage payment was due. I had no income. The fraudulent credit cards were demanding payment despite my police reports. The company said I needed to prove the fraud wasn't mine, which could take months. I'd always been so careful with money. I'd built up a solid emergency fund, but it was disappearing faster than I'd imagined possible. My best friend from college, Maya, called me. We'd been close for 12 years. She started the conversation with, "Is what your family is saying true? Maya, you've known me for over a decade. Do you really think I'd steal from my parents?" She hesitated. That hesitation destroyed me. I don't know what to think. Your mom's posts are really detailed. She seems genuinely hurt. Because she's lying and manipulating people. That's what she does. But why would she lie about something so serious? I tried to explain everything. The 5 years of payments, the fraudulent credit cards, the fake medical emergency. But I could hear the doubt in Maya's voice. "Maybe there's been a misunderstanding on both sides," she said carefully. "Maybe you should try to work it out." After we hung up, I cried for an hour. If Maya doubted me, who would believe me? My cousin texted me, "You're invited to my wedding in July." Then, 3 hours later, "Actually, my mom says you're not welcome until you apologize to Aunt Janet." Sorry. I wasn't just losing my parents and brother. I was losing my entire extended family, my community, my history. At work, things had gotten worse. The HR investigation had uncovered the truth about my brother's email. They knew the accusations were false. They'd seen all my financial records proving I'd been giving my parents money, not taking it. But the CEO called me into his office with a grim expression. "Eugenia, we know you're innocent. We believe you. But this situation has created significant controversy for the company. The lawsuit, the media attention, the social media posts. Our clients are asking questions. Our board is concerned. So what are you saying? We're prepared to offer you a choice. You can resign quietly with 3-month severance, or we can terminate you for causing a disruptive work environment." I felt like I'd been punched. I didn't cause anything. I'm the victim here. I understand that, but the company has to protect its reputation. I'm sorry. This isn't personal. It felt extremely personal. I took the severance. I couldn't risk being terminated, which would make finding new employment even harder. But 3 months of salary wouldn't last long with all my expenses. I sat in my car in the parking garage for over an hour, unable to drive. I'd lost my job. I'd lost my family. I'd lost friends. My name was mud in my hometown. I was facing a fraudulent lawsuit. I was running out of money. My parents had destroyed my life, and they'd done it so effectively that I had no way to fight back. That night, sitting alone in my condo, I seriously considered giving up. just giving them whatever they wanted to make it stop. But doctor, Sarah's words echoed in my mind. If you give in now, they'll know they can do this to you forever. I fell asleep on my couch, exhausted and hopeless. The next morning, someone rang my doorbell. I almost didn't answer, but something made me get up. It was a courier with a certified letter. I signed for it, wondering what fresh nightmare this was. Another lawsuit? Another demand? I opened it with shaking hands. It was from a law firm I didn't recognize, Chambers and Associates. The letter explained that they'd been retained by my late grandmother's estate. My grandmother had passed away 18 months ago. I remembered the funeral. My parents had been oddly cheerful despite losing my father's mother. I'd thought it was strange at the time. The letter continued. Your grandmother established a trust to be paid out to specific beneficiaries 18 months after her death. You, Eugenia Parker, are named as the primary beneficiary. Me hands started shaking harder. The inheritance amount. $425,000. I read the number 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. $425,000. From my grandmother. The letter explained that my grandmother had intentionally excluded my parents and brother from the bulk of her estate. She'd left them each $10,000 and given the rest to me. The attorney had been searching for me to deliver the funds, but I'd moved since she died and hadn't updated my address with the family. There was more. My grandmother had known about the family dynamics. She'd documented conversations with my father where he admitted he saw me as a reliable bank and planned to milk me as long as possible. She'd kept detailed notes. In their state, with her consent, she'd even recorded some conversations. It was all legal, all documented. At the bottom of the letter was a handwritten note from the attorney. Your grandmother specifically wrote in her will, Eugenia deserves to be free. She wanted you to have the resources to escape. I called the number immediately. A kind-voiced man answered. Miss Parker, I'm so glad we finally reached you. Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes. She knew your family was taking advantage of you financially. She knew? She tried to talk to your father about it several times. That's when she started documenting everything. She wanted to protect you. I have recordings? Yes. Conversations where your father explicitly discusses his plan to continually extract money from you, where he laughs about how easy it is to guilt you into giving them what they want. The recordings are yours. They could be crucial to your legal defense. I sat down hard on my couch. My grandmother had seen everything. She'd tried to protect me, even after death. I'm being sued by my parents, I said, for elder financial abuse. This evidence could save me. The attorney's voice turned hard. I've been following that case, actually. That's one reason I was so eager to find you. Your grandmother would be appalled. Send me the case information. I'll make sure these recordings and documents are provided to your attorney. After I hung up, I just sat there. $425,000. Evidence that could destroy my parents' lawsuit. Proof of their manipulation. But the revelation that hurt most was this. They'd known. For months, they'd known about my inheritance. That's why they'd suddenly given my brother $350,000. That's why they'd ramped up their demands on me. They'd been trying to extract as much as possible before I found out I didn't need them anymore. They'd seen me as a resource to be drained dry before I escaped. I cried for my grandmother, who'd loved me enough to set me free. And I cried for myself, for the years I'd wasted hoping my parents would see my worth. But underneath the grief was something new, something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power. The first thing I did was pay off all the fraudulent credit cards. Every single one. My credit score jumped back up immediately. Then I hired the best attorney I could find, someone who specialized in family fraud and elder abuse cases. Miriam Chen was a shark in designer suits, and she smiled when I told her my story. Your parents messed with the wrong daughter, she said. She sent my parents' attorney the recordings and notes from my grandmother. The message was clear. Drop the lawsuit or face a countersuit for fraud, defamation, and identity theft. We had evidence. We had documentation. We had my grandmother's meticulous record-keeping. 2 days later, my father called me directly. His voice was shaking with rage. "Those recordings are fake. They have to be. My mother would never do that to me." "Your mother loved you," I said quietly. "That's why she tried to talk to you first. That's why she gave you chances to change. You didn't. If you use those in court, I'll make sure you regret it. I'll destroy whatever reputation you have left. You've already done that. I have nothing left to lose. But you do." He hung up. My mother started texting. Long, rambling messages that swung wildly between rage and false sweetness. "How could you do this to us? We're your parents. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. And this is how you repay us?" Then, an hour later, "Sweetheart, I'm sorry we fought. I love you so much. You're my daughter. Can't we just forget all this and move on? Family is forever." I didn't respond to any of it. 3 days later, my parents issued a public statement on Facebook. "After careful consideration and with heavy hearts, we've decided to drop our lawsuit against our daughter." This was all a terrible misunderstanding based on miscommunication. "We love Eugenia and want nothing but the best for her. Family is the most important thing." The Justice for the Parkers page disappeared overnight. The hateful posts were deleted. Suddenly, people who'd called me a monster were posting things like, "I'm glad they worked it out. Family should stay together." Then came the call from my brother. His voice was different, softer, almost pleading. "Eugenia, I'm glad Mom and Dad came to their senses. I never wanted things to go this far. Can we talk? Can we try to fix this?" "What is there to fix? Our relationship. We're siblings. I miss my sister." I wanted so badly to believe him. Some part of me, the little girl who'd idolized her big brother, wanted to think he'd realized what they'd done was wrong. My therapist's words echoed in my head. "Be careful. Abusers don't change easily. They just change tactics." But I agreed to meet. One meeting, in a public place, just to hear what they had to say. We met at a restaurant downtown on a Tuesday evening. My parents arrived with my brother and sister-in-law. They'd clearly coordinated their approach. Everyone was dressed nicely, smiling, acting like we were just having a normal family dinner. My mother hugged me. "I'm so happy you came." We sat down. My father ordered an expensive bottle of wine. The apologies started immediately. "We've been under so much stress," my mother said. "Your father's business struggles, the mounting bills. We made some bad decisions. We see that now." "We never meant to hurt you," my father added. "We just panicked. We thought you had endless money, and we were drowning." My brother jumped in. "I should have stood up for you. I was thinking about my own family, my own needs. That was selfish." It all felt rehearsed, like lines from a script. But part of me wanted it to be real. "We want to make it right," my mother said. "We'll pay you back, a little at a time, starting with $100 a month. We'll sign a payment plan." $100 a month? For over $300,000? That would take 250 years. "It's a start," my father said. "It shows good faith." I noticed my brother kept checking his phone, looking at the door, looking back at his phone. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to use the restroom." Instead, I walked outside, and there, parked across the street, was a news van, local station, someone with a camera. I walked back inside and stood at our table. "Why is there a news van outside?" My brother's face went red. "What are you talking about?" "You've been texting someone and watching the door. You tipped off the media, didn't you? You were planning to stage some kind of public reconciliation, weren't you? Get it on camera so you could rehabilitate your image?" My father's expression shifted from fake warmth to cold calculation in an instant, and it would have worked. A nice redemption story. Parents and daughter reconcile. Would have made you look good too, except I didn't agree to it. My mother leaned forward. "You're going to give us half that inheritance. That money should have been mine. Your grandmother was a bitter old woman who poisoned you against us." But you're going to do the right thing and share it. Or what? Or we'll dedicate our lives to destroying your reputation everywhere you go, my father said quietly. We know people. We have connections. We'll make sure no company ever hires you. We'll follow you to every new city. We'll tell everyone what a terrible person you are. You'll never be free of us. You can't run from family, my mother added. My sister-in-law smiled smugly. You think you've won because of some money? We'll make your life hell. I pulled out my phone. They didn't know I'd been recording this conversation with an app recommended by my attorney. Legal in our state with one-party consent. I think we're done here, I said calmly. My father grabbed my wrist, hard enough to leave marks. His face was inches from mine. You're going to regret this. We made you, and we can break you. I yanked my arm free and walked out. In my car, my whole body shook, but underneath the fear was clarity. I'd finally seen them completely. No masks, no pretense. Just who they really were. And I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I met with Miriam in her office. I played her the recording from the restaurant. She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Oh, they really don't know when to quit, do they? What do? We go on the offensive. Full attack. No more defense. Within 24 hours, Miriam had filed for a restraining order against all 3 family members. The recording of my father threatening me was Exhibit A. The bruise on my wrist was photographed and documented. She filed a counter lawsuit for identity theft and fraud, for defamation, for emotional distress, for attorney fees. She provided all the evidence. My grandmother's recordings, bank statements showing my payments to them, the fraudulent credit card documentation, everything. She also sent the true story to the local newspaper. The journalist who'd written the original article was mortified when he saw the evidence. He wrote a correction piece. Inheritance dispute reveals financial elder abuse claims were false. The new article included excerpts from my grandmother's notes, explaining how she'd documented years of financial manipulation. I filed updated police reports with all the new evidence. The detective assigned to my case suddenly became much more interested. Credit card fraud with this much documentation? Identity theft this clear-cut? The prosecutor's office started seriously considering charges. My parents tried to respond. They posted angry rants on social media, but Miriam sent cease and desist letters. When they didn't stop, she showed that to the judge considering the restraining order. The restraining order was granted. 2 years. They couldn't contact me, couldn't come near me, couldn't post about me online. The Justice for the Parkers page had been archived before it disappeared. Miriam provided it all as evidence of the harassment campaign. Extended family members who'd shared false information started quietly deleting their posts. My brother's employer saw his involvement. He'd used his work email to send that defamatory message to my company. That was a violation of company policy. He was suspended pending an investigation. Within 2 weeks, the tide had completely turned. My former company called. The CEO himself. We made a terrible mistake, he said. We should have stood by you. We'd like to offer you the VP position with the full signing bonus, plus an additional $25,000 as compensation for the wrongful suspension. I thanked him politely. Then I told him I'd already accepted a position at their biggest competitor. Vice President of Marketing, $200,000 salary, better benefits, better title. The look on his face was almost worth everything I'd been through. Almost. My parents' attorney contacted Miriam with a settlement offer. They'd drop their lawsuit completely. They'd pay my attorney fees. They'd agree to stay away from me. Not good enough, Miriam told them. They're paying restitution for the credit card fraud. They're paying back a significant portion of what she gave them over the years. And they're signing a statement admitting the abuse. They fought at first, but the criminal investigation was moving forward. Prosecutors were seriously considering charges. My parents were looking at potential jail time and definitely probation. They settled. They paid $15,000 in attorney fees immediately. They were court-ordered to pay me back $32,000 for the fraudulent credit cards plus an additional $50,000 in damages. Monthly payment plan with interest. They had to close all the fraudulent accounts and provide documentation. And they had to sign a statement admitting they'd committed financial fraud and identity theft. The restraining order stayed in place for 2 years. The criminal charges resulted in a plea deal, probation, community service, and full restitution. They'd have criminal records now. My brother tried to distance himself from them after his employer gave him a final warning. He sent me an email with a long apology. I read the first line and deleted it. Some apologies come too late. I used part of my inheritance for a down payment on a beautiful house in a city 300 miles away. Fresh start, new job, new life. The house was perfect. 3 bedrooms, a big kitchen, a yard with space for a garden. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. No one else's opinion mattered. My new job was incredible. My colleagues respected me. My boss valued my ideas. I was finally being seen for who I was, not what I could provide. 6 months after moving, I was thriving. I'd started dating someone I met through work. Someone kind, who respected boundaries, who thought my ambition was attractive rather than threatening. I'd made new friends who knew nothing about my family drama, who knew me as just Eugenia. Successful, independent, happy Eugenia. One afternoon, I received a letter from my parents. The envelope was addressed in my mother's handwriting. For a moment, I considered opening it. Then I threw it away, without reading past the return address. I stood in my kitchen, the room filled with afternoon sunlight, and thought about my grandmother. "Thank you for setting me free," I whispered. Because I was free, truly free for the first time in my adult life. I'd learned something crucial through all of this. Some people, even family, will see you as a resource rather than a person. They'll exploit your love, twist your guilt, and manipulate your hope that they'll change. They'll take and take until there's nothing left, and they'll never feel remorse. True freedom comes from recognizing your worth isn't determined by what you can provide others. It's determined by the life you build for yourself, the boundaries you enforce, the people you choose to keep close. My parents had called me too ambitious for a woman. They'd said I should focus on finding a husband instead of building a career. They'd treated my success as something shameful, something that made me less worthy of their support. But my ambition saved me. My career gave me options. My financial independence gave me the power to walk away. I wasn't too ambitious. If anything, I hadn't been ambitious enough. I'd spent years making myself smaller, giving away my money, accepting crumbs of affection and calling it love. My grandmother knew. She knew that women don't need to be smaller to make others comfortable. She knew that ambition isn't something to apologize for. It's something to embrace. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from people who refuse to celebrate your success. People who see your gifts as their entitlement. People who love what you can do for them, but not who you are. I looked around my home, my sanctuary, the life I'd built with my own hands, my own work, my own determination. I wasn't the woman who accepted unfair treatment anymore. I wasn't the daughter who gave everything and received nothing. I wasn't the sister who could be manipulated with guilt. I was Eugenia, successful, independent, ambitious. And for the first time in my life, I was unapologetically myself. The money from my grandmother wasn't just financial freedom. It was permission. Permission to value myself. Permission to demand respect. Permission to walk away from people who hurt me, even when they shared my blood. Family isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by love, respect, and mutual support. My parents and brother failed that test, but Maya eventually came around after seeing the evidence. Some of my cousins reached out privately to apologize. I was building a new definition of family, one based on choice rather than obligation, and I was at peace. Deep, genuine peace. The kind that comes from knowing you stood up for yourself. The kind that comes from surviving something terrible and coming out stronger. My story isn't unique. So many people, especially women, are taught that being giving means being limitless, that setting boundaries is selfish, that family loyalty means accepting abuse. But I'm here to tell you, your worth isn't measured by how much you give to people who don't appreciate it. Your ambition isn't something to apologize for. Your success isn't a reason to be punished. You deserve people who celebrate your victories, not people who see them as opportunities to take more. You deserve relationships built on mutual respect, not manipulation. You deserve to be free. My grandmother's last gift wasn't the money, it was the message. Eugenia deserves to be free, and I finally was. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who saw you as a resource rather than a person? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with the same situation. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps others who need to hear this message find it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about overcoming family challenges and finding your own path. And share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself, even when family makes you feel guilty for it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some validation, or some courage to make the changes you need in your own life. Remember, you're not alone. You're not selfish for having boundaries. You're not wrong for wanting respect. You deserve to be free too.